you for joining us for this episode of the Perspectives in STEM podcast from Teach STEM Global, where we spotlight the people, ideas, and stories shaping the future of STEM and STEM education. All of this in a movement to bring STEM education and STEM to every child everywhere. I'm your host, Dr. Kimberly West. Today's guest is right in the intersection of science and teaching. Jordan, known to many online as Dr. J, is the founder of Sci Odyssey by, I know I asked you, but I'm gonna get this wrong. Tis Dr. J.
Yeah.
Tis Dr. J. She's dedicated herself to making science education more inclusive and welcoming, helping secondary science teachers build classrooms where students think critically like scientists. I love that. Collaborate meaningfully, love that even more, and build a real confidence in STEM, all without burning out along the way. So whether you're a teacher, a science communicator, or just, care about the next generation of learners, and their ability to think critically, this conversation is for you. So please welcome Dr. J. Dr. J, it's wonderful to have you today. Thank you for being with
Thank
us.
you. Thank you so much.
All right, so I'm ready to get this conversation started
Yeah.
because as a science educator, I'm all about this work. So, my first question is: can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what inspired you, into your journey into science education?
Yeah, so I am originally from Jackson, Mississippi. And I was very lucky, like being from Jackson. Jackson is a very Black city. And so I went to schools where I was surrounded by like Black students, Black teachers. And I knew a lot of Black people who like did really well for themselves, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I never had that like I never had that experience of wondering what I could do, right?
Mm,
Um and I also had a lot of teachers who really poured into me. I think that really influenced like my experience of wanting to be a teacher, is like having all people around me who like really prioritize education, who poured into me, and like encouraged me to do what I wanted to do. Now I will say that most of my family and friends were not enthused by the idea of me being a teacher. Um, like there's a lot of people are like they hear a teacher and they go, like the
mm-hmm.
thing, you'll hear, you're too smart for that. Don't you want to
Yeah,
make money? All
I'm
those
about, you
sorts
about to
of
be
things.
broke.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So because like starting in like seventh grade, I had told everybody, I was like, I want to be that person who delivers babies. So
Mm,
I told everybody I wanted to do that. I eventually found out the actual name was a OBGYN.
right,
And
right.
that was like what I said I wanted to do until I hit 10th grade. And then I had an English teacher who I was like, oh no, I think I want to be a teacher. Um,
Mm.
and everybody was like, no, you don't. So I ended up, and I wanted to be an English teacher. So the way I ended up being a biology teacher was everybody was like, no, absolutely not. And so I still pursued like medical school throughout college and everything. And it wasn't until after like I ended up getting waitlisted at Meharry.
Mhm.
And then like I had like a year where I was trying to figure out what I was gonna do. And I was like, I'm miserable. And
Yes.
I could just do the thing I wanted to do, which was teach. And
Yes.
like so that's what actually got me into teaching science.
Yeah. First of all, I love that it was the power of a teacher, right? That kind of made you say, "This is really what I want to do." But your life kind of sounds similar to mine. I always joke with people and I say, "Listen, I'm not the type of doctor that can save your life." If we're on a plane and they're asking, if you need a doctor,
Yeah.
I'm not looking, I'm not raising my hands. But I
Yeah.
always joke I can philosophize with you. I always That's what I
Yes.
joke with people. But I have kind of this similar thing. I always wanted to be a cardiologist, like did science fair project, all that stuff. And then
Yeah.
I was like, maybe. So I love that because that kind of sounds similar to my experience. Looking back at all your experiences, what challenges during your early years as an educator helped define your philosophy of teaching? And you can
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that philosophy of teaching. Yes.
Yeah. So like part of it is just like the work that I do now, like being aimed at teachers specifically and not so much at like eventually I want to do stuff that is like for students and for like teenagers and like is more like recreational than
Mm-hmm.
than like in the classroom academic. But the reason I started with teachers is because my first year was so hard. Which I'm sure
Yes.
some people have experienced. And like, I did not go to school to be a teacher originally. So I
Mm.
was in like the teacher prep, the MAT program while I was doing my first year. I didn't know what I was doing. When I walked in the door, all I had done was a class about assessment and a class on classroom management. And that was it. No, I had
You
taken
had
one
a
other
class or a
class.
management class? Wait a minute. Do they? I don't even think
Well,
they do those.
I don't know how how I can't give it too many props, unfortunately. Um, but so one of the biggest pieces of advice that I took from those classes that ended up that I feel like does shape my practice now, even though it might sound a little funny, is I had a professor, I don't remember which class it was. It was probably the classroom management class. And he was like the most important advice I will give you is if you wake up in the morning and you think to your and you're not sure if you go to work whether or not you might do something that gets you put in jail or losing your license, stay home.
Oh,
And he meant it in the way of we teachers have this tendency to push
yeah.
themselves through. Like we have this tendency to guilt ourselves. And so we will feel like just dog crap terrible.
Hmm.
You will be like you can feel the anxiety sitting on your back like a bear,
Yeah.
and you will get up and go to work anyway.
Yeah.
And he the way he communicated it was like, big was in this grandiose way, but sometimes that's what you need for something to stick in your head. And I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie, I didn't take the advice the first year, because who does? But eventually I kind of realized, like, if I don't take care of myself, then
Yeah.
I can't support my students. And in realizing that I had to take care of myself and like see myself as a human with needs first,
Yes.
also helped me to then go, okay, these kids also need me to see them as a human with needs first, not just
Mm.
check boxes on like standard check boxes that I need to check off.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I believe you call it human-centered science education. I love that because in an age where it seems like students are just a data point, we have
Mhm.
to give back to the fact that they are in fact humans, right?
Yeah.
They come to us with things that we don't know anything about, things from home, things from life that are on their minds and their hearts. And we have to always remember that they are not just a data point. They're not just, are they going to pass that test? Now, are those things important? Yes. But we have to remember that they are people too. And they love that relationship and that connection with
Mhm.
us,
And
you know?
I found too that like when once I moved from being like, oh, day to day, 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 like all day every day, to being
Hmm.
like, hey, are you good?
Yeah.
That the data improves.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
it's like you get in this trap of, you get so caught up in the data that you stop
Hmm.
seeing the person, but you have to see the person if you actually want them to learn.
Right. Because at the same time, we want people to see us as people too, right?
Mhm.
We don't want us to see us as, did you move your kids or what your scores look like? We too are
Yeah.
people who have issues. I always say teachers are the greatest actors because we come to school with all type of life issues and we're still
Mhm.
like showing up every day. And how are you? You know, like deep down
Yep.
inside, I just want to go in the corner and cry. But so I love that. That is a focus because I think that's something we need to get back to, building connections and seeing our kids as humans and the people that they are, and it's our job to nurture that.
Yeah.
And I think that is a great privilege. And so one of the things, what are some misconceptions about good science teaching? Because I know you do a lot with curriculum and working with teachers. What are some misconceptions that teachers may have?
I think like what I tend to see is that people tend to fall in one of two categories. They either are inquiry based, but the inquiry is it's too much, or
Mm,
it's like, well, I let them explore, and it's like, well, it has to be some guided exploration. Like there
yeah.
still had like for me, my inquiry is often wrapped up in direct instruction. So like I'm at the board, I'm actively teaching you something, but then I'm going to, instead of me just straight out giving information, I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to help you learn how to engage in inquiry. And so I think like there was such a push for inquiry that, but without the scaffolding that teachers needed to
Yes.
actually implement it well. And not just like the scaffolding they need to be able to give their students, but actually admin and teacher and like professional development, and teacher education, scaffolding the process out for the teacher, because inquiry is intuitive and it's not, right?
Right.
Like anybody who's been around little kids can tell you those are some inquisitive little children. I have a 5 and 6 year
Yes.
old niece that I live with, and they're always like, I'm doing an experiment. I'm blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, right.
And so parts of it is very intuitive, but other parts, especially once we put it into this academic space, are not. And then
Right.
I'm a high school teacher. So by the time kids get to me, a lot of times their curiosity has been all but just stamped out. And so it has to be taught, especially if it's like we're trying to help them to learn specific things. And then on the other end of that, partially is a backlash to the inquiry thing, and people being like, it's not working. You have people who are like, well, I just stand the board and I tell them the information, and
Mhm.
it's up to them whether or not they get it or not. And it's like, well,
No,
no.
no,
Well,
no.
no. And I think part of that too is this idea that a lot of people feel like, well, I said it, it's up to them whether or not they learn it. And it's like, well, saying is not the same as teaching.
Right.
And communicating information is not teaching. Just because I communicated information to them does not mean that I have done my due diligence in helping them to actually acquire that concept and acquire the ability to apply that concept. And so that's usually like the two things I see. It's either people are like so gung ho on inquiry that they're not actually teaching anything, or they're like, I gave them information, but they're not actually teaching anything.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I think that's a common thing, a theme throughout education. Those two types
Yes, for
of
sure.
from education. And so you said something that's kind of awakened something in me. I've been a middle school educator for the entirety of my career. However, I'm transitioning to high school this year. And
Welcome.
so, right, I feel like I've made it to the promised land now. Um, you know, I guess I'm just thinking because when you said that, by the time students get to you, all that is out of them. And I think about all that I have done as a middle school educator, like I've taught sixth grade and I try to get them in there and get their hands dirty and get them excited. Like, what can we do to improve that? Like, what should teachers be doing so that by the time they get to you, by the time they get to high school, they're like, well, this is boring. She's just going to talk us to death.
Yeah.
We're never going to get our hands dirty.
Yeah, I think it's a two-part thing. And so because the first part is kind of just is out of teachers' hands. It's really a policy thing. It's an admin thing, because what I've seen a lot and what I like research shows us within the field of science education is a lot of kids do not get consistent science education in elementary school.
Exactly.
They
Yeah.
don't really get it until it's time to test.
Yeah. Thank you. No child left behind.
Yeah,
Um,
like it's
sorry.
like in Mississippi, kids don't test in science till fifth grade. So when
Yeah.
do a lot of them start seeing science? Fifth grade.
Yeah.
The problem is that if they were doing science earlier, those reading and writing scores would actually probably be better. But that's another story for another day.
But that part though,
Um,
but that part. Yes.
but also like the pacing guide and the standards for fifth grade assumes they
Yeah.
were getting all this stuff in first, second, third, and fourth grade
Yes.
that they
Yeah.
didn't get. And then you have the same issue, the issue of you have elementary school teachers, and this is no shade to them because elementary teachers are
Yeah.
blessed, love y'all,
Bless them.
couldn't
Bless
do
them.
it,
Yes.
and
Mm,
I
nope.
appreciate y'all for it. But they're usually their expertise is not in science.
Exactly. Yeah.
You have students who hop from school to school, and so sometimes like there's just these random gaps kids tend to have because maybe they went to a school that was doing a really good job with science one year, but then they
Yeah.
went to another school where they didn't do anything. um and then and then like following it with like the teacher shortage and everything, sometimes even when they get to middle school, I knew a middle school science teacher who she was the only science teacher in her building who actually had a background in science.
Mm,
Everybody else, it was like we had to have somebody.
mm,
And I even see that with like I teach ninth grade biology, which is state tested everywhere I've taught.
right.
I've seen ev- everywhere I've taught that there has always been at least one teacher, if not more, who did not have a background in biology,
Mm,
and who there have been multiple places I've taught where I've had coworkers, and this is no shade to them because they were some of the hardest working people that
right.
I worked with, but we had to go teach them content so they could teach it to the students,
Mm,
right? And
mm,
so
mm-hmm.
when you have like, and this is a big part of the teacher shortage, a big part of it is like these people tell people who are gifted in science that, oh, you shouldn't be a teacher. you end up with kids with all these gaps because they are
Yeah.
not getting consistent science instruction.
Yep.
So, and the only time people tend to actually take it seriously is when it's associated with a test. And so for them, science becomes about testing, not about curiosity and investigation and problem solving. And so
Yeah.
it makes within that context, I'm like, I get why you don't like the subject. And I'll tell students that I'm like, I understand.
Yeah. Exactly.
um, and so like that's the one part. And so on the flip side of that is like as a teacher in your classroom, because I am very big about like let's acknowledge the realities of policy and the realities of the world. And what can
Right.
I do in my classroom? It is the thing of making it a safe place to make mistakes and
Right.
like acknowledging data, talking about it in your classroom, but not making it the end all be all. And really like making time for students to follow their interest and curiosity. Like, of course, you can't do that all day, every day.
Right.
But at the
Right.
same time, like making that space for that to happen on occasion so that science isn't just this test associated thing that's very scary.
Right.
And so that they don't feel like, oh, if I don't know, I need to be quiet. Like they need to be
Yeah.
able to make a mistake and it not be the end of the world.
Yep. Yeah, I tell them that too. I said, even like, because even that flows into testing. They're afraid when they're testing. I say, listen, that's how we all learn. I
Mhm.
was like, everybody. I said, what happens? I said, you touch the hot stove and you go, ouch. I said, you touch the hot stove again? No. I said, because that
Yep.
was a mistake. You've learned from it. So I think in some regards, some of our kids are just with what they've been through for testing and other things, they're so afraid to make mistakes, which
Yes.
translates to them in the classroom being afraid to even try. And I'm like, honey, if you just try, it's gonna be all right.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna fail you if you try. I'm gonna fail you if you don't try yourself, but I'm not gonna fail you if you take some leaps, you take some academic risks and you try. And so yeah, you've spoken to a lot of things that are near and dear to my heart as far as some of we're on the same
Yeah.
wavelength with that. And so thinking about the coaching work that you do with Sci Odyssey and working with educators, in addition to like that kind of dichotomy of too much inquiry or not enough inquiry, what are some other challenges that you see teachers are experiencing in a science classroom?
Right now, the two biggest ones are just like attendance
Mm,
and learned helplessness, which is what
mm,
I hear a lot, like mostly what people are frustrated and struggling with.
yeah,
Um, and what I'm gonna say this, might be a little uncomfortable to hear for some people, but with both of them, a lot of times I'm like, all right, I need us to also understand though that in framing, and sometimes people come and they're like, I'm trying to figure this out. And I
right,
think when you come with that energy, you absolutely are able to figure it out. But
right.
a lot of times I see too is a lot of learned helplessness on the part of the teacher as well.
Mm,
Where it's like, well, I can't do anything about it. And it's like, well, there
mm,
are some things you
mm,
can do.
right.
Like, yeah, there are things that are out of your pay grade. There are things that are out of
Yeah,
your control. Like, you cannot wake up and go pick up a child and make them come to school.
right.
Absolutely not. That is beyond your
Absolutely.
control.
Yeah,
You can send an email to mom and say, hey, we missed so and so today.
right.
And people, and then and what I so, and the people who are actually trying to, like, they're like, okay, I'll try that. And it's like, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You have to, I think that's a big part of it too, is you have to release yourself from the outcome,
Right.
because
Yes,
you aren't in
yes,
control of it.
yes,
Like, so people are so
yes,
busy talking about what's not their job that
yes,
it's like, no, that is your job, but then you have to let
yes,
go of what happens on the other side of it.
yes.
And so, and people are, and like people who are about it, they'll do it. And they're like, and it's like, and then once you let it go, it releases
Hmm.
that weight off of you anyway.
Yes. Hmm.
Versus saying, well, it doesn't matter. That's not gonna make, I am a witness of, I have had parents and students tell me, oh yeah, she came to school today because you called. She came to school today because, like, it's so little. It
Yeah.
took 3 minutes of my day. And and it feels overwhelming, but it's just like being strategic about how much of it you do and when. And again, saying, I did the thing I was supposed to do, I did what I could, and
Right.
now I have let it go to the other people who are also responsible.
Yes. I like that because we do sometimes take on so much. We feel,
Mhm.
because I guess I can say that too, more so in the beginning of my career, feeling so like it is my responsibility.
Yes.
They have got to. And I had to realize, and going back to what you said about human centeredness and students, and even us as educators, there's just a lot of things that we can't control.
Mhm.
There's, I mean, students who you expect to do well on assessment, sometimes you go, oh my God, what happened? Like, so you have
Sometimes,
to,
and
yeah,
I'm saying
just
sometimes you watch a child who could make a perfect score, go to sleep 10 minutes in because they didn't sleep the night before. And you just
exactly.
go, well,
Yeah.
that is a true
Yeah.
story.
No, no, I mean, and that is true. It's just there are a lot of factors that play into this outcome. But it's unfortunate that a lot of it's on our shoulders. And again, it's nothing that we can do. So I like how you said we have to release that. And you have to let it go.
Yeah.
And that's something that I had to learn because trust me, the coming home, the spending time,
Mhm.
making, projects, doing PBL, project-based learning, all of that type stuff. On the other side, I look back and I go, "Ooh, I took a lot of time for my family, and I am ashamed of that." Like,
Yeah.
but at the same time, no, that's something that we all have to learn. Letting
And
that go.
And I think too,
Um,
like things like that with because I definitely in my career I went above and beyond so many times, like making experiences for students. Like I had one
mhm,
point where I had like put the desk on the other side, either side of the room, make these big old squares in the middle of the classroom and put different shells and stuffed animals and everything so they could do like something with ecology. I don't remember what
yeah,
it was specifically. And I spent so much time. And now I'm further along in my career. The question I always ask myself is like, am I going to be upset if this is not received well?
right,
Because
yeah,
you cannot control how students are going to receive it.
mm-mm,
And if I am, then I need to deal with that. And then I ask myself, all right, is there another lower energy way that I can reach the same outcome?
mm,
And that is not to say I never see, like sometimes I do still do that above and beyond, but you do have to be like have to have that conversation with yourself of like, okay,
yeah,
if I'm gonna do all this, I have to accept that they might not visibly care. And I think that visibly is important too, because a lot of
yes,
times there have been things that I was like, I don't know why I waste all the time on that, da, 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 da. And then later on in the year, they come back and like, oh, that was my favorite thing.
exactly. And you're like, what? You was sitting there like you was ready to go to
Yeah.
sleep.
Rolling your eyes and
Right.
complaining.
No, I know, I get that. Yeah. So yeah, because at the same time, though, it gets to me. You're speaking of that teacher self-preservation. We have got to preserve ourselves. Yeah, because trust me, I can tell you some things. I mean, I'm not just talking about time spent on the computer making. I'm talking about money spent at the
Hmm.
store. All the things.
Yes.
And I'm
Yes.
going, man, I could really that could have really been in my bank account right now. But
Uh,
at the same time, it was worth it because there were those students that was like, this is really great, and they got to make those connections. And I like what you said too, the visible, because yeah, they gonna give you some visible cues that's not kind of nice,
uh-huh.
but you have to still persevere, and then too, as you're going, I know for myself, like I'm going and like from one class to another, and I go, okay, that didn't work. So,
Yep.
like, what do I got to do? I got to make some small shifts and adjustments, and that's okay to do too. Because
Yeah.
again, at the end of the day, I like when I work with teachers, I tell them, your students, so
Hmm.
it's okay if you want to roll with that same plan because maybe it'll work for the next class. But if you need to make some adjustments, do that. So I think that's important.
For sure.
Kind of just thinking about students and their visible cues or lack of excitement in those visible cues or whatever. For a student that says, I'm just not a science person, I don't like science, I don't like your class, or I just don't feel like I'm competent in this area, I didn't have a good experience in elementary or middle school, but you're not going to be any different. How do we help them rewrite that story to understand that they are a good science student, or they can be a good science student and maybe even pursue a career in the sciences?
Yeah. So for me, I always try to begin with doing things that do not, on the surface, feel very scientific.
Mm,
So like I play game, I play soup salad or sandwich with kids a lot. And I use
okay.
that to bridge into writing. I use it to bridge into observation. I use it to bridge in talking about classification later on in the year. I use it for a lot of different purposes. But at the beginning of the school year, it's just me going, here's some macaroni and cheese. Tell me if that's a soup, a salad, or a sandwich. Right.
Mhm.
And it is a silly nonsense question that does not matter. And
Right.
so and so it is very low stakes for a kid to answer that, right?
Right.
Like there's no fear of being wrong because they can't be wrong.
Right.
Um there's no grade attached to it.
Yeah.
It's just nonsense. And I do that with like a few years ago. This girl went viral on TikTok for asking like how many owls would you have to see in the daytime before you
Uh-huh.
got like before you started to feel uncomfortable. And it was like all over TikTok. And so I took that and made that into a lesson about scientific practices. Like,
Mm,
and so like I just start off by being like, hey, I just walk in there and I go, how many snails is too many snails? And they go,
mm,
what? And I preface it by being like, I'm about to ask you the most important question I'm going to ask you all year. This is going to tell me so much about who you are as a person. It's going to help me know so much about this class.
right.
And then just like very stone faced, very seriously, asking like how many snails or too many snails. And then they start asking for context, right? And I don't give
Uh-huh.
it at first, but and at the end of that lesson, at the end of a soup salad or sandwich lesson, I can go, okay, you know how you identify the elements of macaroni and cheese? That's the
Right.
same skills observation that you use when you are looking at a figure in our class. You know how when you asked me for more context, when you were trying to figure out how many snails was too many snails, that is the
Right.
same thing we're doing when we're like identifying what variables we might want to test during an experiment.
Right.
And so like I take this thing that is very much that doesn't feel scientific at all, and I go, here's how you were using those exact same skills.
Right.
Um, and so that's the start, but really the biggest part of it is really like in the every single day going in and not letting kids give up. So
Mm,
like not just giving them the answer. They're struggling. It's like, okay, we can go and we can tackle this together. But my role in this discussion is to ask you questions, not to give you answers,
right.
because I need you to see that you are fully capable of it. And
Mm-hmm.
then once they hit that point where they get it and it snaps, verbally acknowledging it and saying, see,
Yep.
like you were frustrated and you thought you couldn't do it, but you did it.
Right.
And it's the word, it takes a while. It
Yeah.
doesn't like
Yeah,
on the
no, it
first,
does.
yeah, like it's a couple of months, but it makes such a huge difference in your classroom.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm just two things. I'm just thinking of when that clicks. Again, you have to figure me out. I'm just teaching in middle school, so I'm always going amazing. Like I'm
Oh,
just
I love that. I'm
I'm
so
like
dramatic,
amazing.
so I
I'm doing
keep it.
something silly like that, and they just look and roll their eyes, and then when I walk away, they love it. They're
Yes.
like yes, I did. But can you talk a little about for teachers who are listening? Can you talk a little bit more about your soup salad kind of strategy, and maybe when you implement it? Can you talk about it a little bit more, because this might be something they want to implement in their class, because they might be saying my kids are in my class, but they're not engaged, or I don't know how to get them engaged. And
Yeah.
this is a really good strategy.
Yeah. So and I also like I have so many posts about it on my social media too.
Okay.
But so if somebody is like, I still want more after this.
Okay.
But so I introduced it on day one. We'd
Mm,
play it basically every day of the first week of school, and then like once or twice a week for the next few weeks. And so at first, my goal is just like getting to know students. And it
mhm,
is a very low pressure icebreaker where they don't actually have to reveal anything personal about themselves.
mm,
It's not putting them on the spot in the same way as saying like share something cool you did this summer, or put two truths and a lie. Like,
yeah.
like those can feel very overwhelming for some kids.
Yes.
And playing it as I see like which kids are ready to shout out and I have to correct multiple times. I'm like, all right, so I know these are my talkers. But I'm seeing the
Mhm.
kid who like pops up and goes, macaroni and cheese is a sandwich, and they say it confidently. I know, that it helps me know something about that kid. When I have a kid
Right.
who like I posted that one on Instagram and TikTok the other day, and I had one person in the comments who was like, actually, it's a dumpling. Some people will say, no, he's not ravioli. They were like, ravioli is actually a dumpling. And I see like some people will say it's ravioli, but ravioli, Pop Tarts, and all that are descended from dumplings from
Oh
like
wow.
Africa and Eastern South Asia. And that is like where that actually come from. And I was like, you know what, period. And if a kid comes up with that, and if a kid
Yeah.
comes up with that explanation, that tells me something about their kid's interest in history, their kid's interest in
Yes.
politics.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like there's so much I can get out of playing this very simple, silly game, right?
Yeah.
um, and so like the first day or so, we're just playing it, and I'm
Yeah.
not really doing anything with it other than maybe keeping track of what they say goes in each category.
Mm,
A little later on, I say, all right, so now that we have these things that we've sorted, let's come up with definitions for each one.
right.
And then like, well, sometimes they have to change the definition or something needs to go into a different category. And so it gives the opportunity for me to talk about the nature of science and how science changes as
Mm-hmm.
you get new data,
Mm-hmm.
or at least our understanding of science changes as we add new data and we do more investigations. And then later on in the year, we then take those definitions and we use them to go into CER. And so it's like,
Right.
if you tell me macaroni and cheese is a soup that is your claim. Whatever characteristics you gave me were your
Yeah,
evidence, and the way you
evidence. Yeah.
connected it back to our definition, that's your reasoning. And so we use that to practice CER. And it's like basically how I use like in the first part of it, and then like we'll like do the same thing. I got like the things we did with how we classified it and like how we identify characteristics that are similar versus dissimilar and
Mhm.
everything to get into classification and all those types of things. So it's pretty handy.
I know I like it because again, like you say, you're learning information about the students in your classroom. Um, I like that it's low stakes because even as educators, as we prepare to start the school year, and I've seen several posts that where they're going to be like asking us educators those same questions. And what did you do over the summer? And what did you? And we're going to be like, I don't want to talk about that right now.
Yeah.
I just want to be back home in the bed. So, all those things. So even for educators and teachers, as we get ready, we're like, no, I don't want to do that. So I like that you're learning about your students, it's low stakes, and it gets them engaged, it gets them talking.
Mm-hmm.
And then too, it gets them thinking. That's the main thing, is
Yes.
it gets them thinking. And they have to, rationalize their answers. And I love that
Yes.
because kids come up with some stuff, and all I can say sometimes is,
Okay.
okay, okay. I think that's brilliant,
Yep.
and I think, and that gives them that confidence too, because they're like, she thinks I'm brilliant and she doesn't even know me, like
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And that's part of that relationship building, that sometimes teachers are like, I don't know how to force, or I don't know. First of all, you can't force it with them,
Yeah.
but when you do little things like that, and it goes getting back to that human centered, you get to that's when they're like, want to hang out with you all the time, and you're like,
Yeah.
please go away, you have other
Yes.
classes
And
and other
it gets
teachers.
them, it moves them past, like they almost forget they're nervous
Yeah.
because it's like, because you come out with something that is so off the wall.
Yeah.
Especially like when I do like the like how many snails, like uh how many snails or how many pairs or whatever. That one, they're like, what?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
like it's so off the wall and so disconnected from
Yeah.
like content that they almost forget that they were supposed to be scared.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, I'm thinking when you asked that question, I was thinking like two, because snails make me feel some type of way. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I would just be like sitting there, like, first of all, I don't even want to think about that. Um,
Yeah, and then like I had one group one year who was like a Googling or whatever it is,
yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
the number that Google came from was the number they came up with, and I was like, "That's so many, friend."
Right.
I
Exactly. Like,
don't even
you're
think
like,
there's that many on the planet.
right, exactly. Like, I don't know what, but I love that though, because again, that's just part of their like curiosity and part of
Yeah,
their creative nature and part of their, like their ability to go to social media and go to things like Google and kind of look up stuff and kind of just, it's their uniqueness in their own way, which I like.
yes,
And yeah,
and
I like that.
it's something that does not. And this is the other thing too. None of these things have correct answers, so it's not
Right.
something you can Google. It's not something you can Chat GPT. It
Yeah.
needs to come from your brain. Now, also, they don't
Yeah.
have access to any of that stuff when we play this,
Right.
but
Right.
it's something where like I want, because that is the other thing too. Like we see so much of kids who they're just like they just want to Google the answer. They want to
Yes.
take the shortcut, and that is not to me any shade towards children, because that is a person thing.
Yeah.
Everybody wants a shortcut.
Yeah.
Um, we all, and you see tons of adults that are like, why do teachers even have to do this? Kids can just YouTube stuff, and you can't bypass the critical thinking. You have
Right.
to do the work.
Right.
um and so like those are things that help, that require them to actually think too, which is another
Yeah.
reason why I like them.
Yeah, no, I love that because it is made. I'm just laughing to myself because, like, I know they say don't use sarcasm with middle school, but that's where I would like break a lot of rules because, like, when they would do stuff, like, I'd go to them and be like, oh my God, have you heard of this thing? It's like all humans have it. And like I just like it, and I'd be like, all humans have it. I mean, it like controls how your body moves and stuff. And the kids are looking at me like, what is she talking about? And I'm like, you just used it to answer. And they'd be like, oh, so you like little like I'm like, have you heard of it? It's called your brain. It's amazing. Use it.
Yeah.
The kids are like, but I love that because I think that's the thing for me that hurts me. And I want our students to do more. I want them to think. You
Hmm.
have this great capability. You have this brain. It's like, I had blown my mind with a class one day, and they were talking about, because I had a student And he was really good, like saying, me and Chat GPT last night was doing your worksheet or whatever. And I would say, sweetheart, you know it. You don't need that. And so I blew their mind one day, and I said, why? I said, we're the brains behind the AI, so we had to feed it. So where do you think the original not from you? And they were like,
Mhm.
oh. So again, I love any way we can get students engaged. And so thinking about that, if you could redesign professional development for science, professional development, learning for science teachers or even teachers in general, what would that look like for you?
For like a lot more cross curricular things.
Yeah.
I learned so much
Yeah.
from ELA teachers, from history teachers. Like when I have the chance and time, which is rare, I love to just go sit in another teacher's room and watch them teach. You
Yeah.
learn so much from that. And that's something that like when I was in grad school, I remember reading papers about like I don't remember which country it was, but like their setup was that teachers like half the day were teaching their class and
Hmm.
the other half of the day they were either doing like their administrative stuff or things, but they were in like learning communities. But it wasn't just like here when you think of a learning like a PLC, it's
Right.
usually just like data talks.
Yeah.
um but
Yeah.
they were actually like going into each other's classrooms and observing each other and then having conversations about it. And when you can do that in a way where everybody is actually respectful of each other's opinion and everybody is just trying to be better, I think that is so helpful and fruitful, because there are some things you just don't see about yourself as a teacher. I
Yes.
truly like one of the my best years teaching and like that I greatly improved as a teacher were the years I had a co-teacher,
Hmm.
because we saw things about each other.
Yeah.
um Especially the years I had a co-teacher who she also had a degree in science, so she knew the science
Mm.
really well too.
Yeah.
um and so it was really we both grew so much because
Yeah.
we're in the room with each other, we're seeing what the other one does in real time. And like not that we're correcting each other in real time, because of course it enabled us to have a lot of conversations that we may or may not have thought to have had
Right.
otherwise.
Right. Right.
um and so really like for me it would just be there would be a lot more of that and a lot more opportunities within a PD where you have opportunity to collaborate with other science teachers,
Hmm.
potentially collaborate with teachers from other subject areas, and to think about how you can apply it in your classroom. I feel like the PDs that have made the most, that I've been, that I found the most use out of, have
Yeah.
had time in it for me to go, how can I make this work in my classroom?
Yes. Yes. And I
Especially
think
if it's a
yes.
mid-year PD. Like over the summer, I feel like there's a little bit more flexibility because you already
Right.
kind of have the time. But in the middle of the year, you already ate up some of my time by having me here. And so the
Yes.
chances that I'm going to leave this room and then go and sit and think about this, honestly, are just low.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the reality that, that's so real. You just you
Yeah.
said something so real. And I think about it too. I love the cross curricular thing because, good teaching is good teaching. And there's strategies
Hmm.
that can be applied across multiple disciplines. And so it's just a matter of getting out of that, these just aren't good strategies for history or good strategies for science. They're good strategies in general. And so once you see what that looks like, or even if you've never ventured, maybe you're afraid to think, oh, science is just too inquiry. I can't use that in my language arts class. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that we can do and share. And I, again, you are a person after my own heart. I just feel like we need to go out to lunch later or something. I don't know.
Look.
Even though we're in two different places. So
No, I get it. I absolutely feel it.
yeah. So I just want to, so I guess again, I know some teachers, they may struggle with strategies or classroom management or other things, but on the horizon is this technology, or actually it's been here. But so how can teachers be good at implementing technology in their classes when we're trying to balance this, getting them to think creativity and to think on their own, but how do we also balance incorporating the technology?
For me, I think it's about excuse me, making sure we're not just throwing technology in for technology's sake, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Like not just doing it because I have it or because the school paid for a license. That was
Yes.
their decision, not mine.
Exactly.
And it was the decision, usually the decision of people who have not been in the classroom with children in a minute. Um, and so it's like just being very mindful about it, and before giving them access to technology, like really thinking to ourselves about like what is the purpose of this technology? Why am
Yes.
I bringing it into the room? Um, mistake I see a lot of people make, and I definitely made earlier in my career, was being like, oh well, I put it on, like almost like we feel like students should be grateful when something is on the computer. You know, it's like, well, if it's, but it's still boring. It's still like, and a lot of
Yes.
times, like some things, I'm like, it's not even well put together,
Yeah.
and you're really leaving them more confused. And so it's
Right.
like making sure that the technology is a value add. There's a
Yes.
company that I learned about last year. It's see that their name is escaping me right now, but they have a framework, excuse me, for like evaluating if technology is a value add.
Hmm.
And so I like that. It's like using things like that to say, is this really actually adding value to this lesson? Or am I just doing it because I feel like I need to add technology? Or, and again, this might sting a little bit for people because it stings a little bit for me. Am I just doing it because I don't want to be bothered today?
Woo, you can say that again for the back of the people in the back of the deck is real.
Yes, because I'm
That's
like, because
real.
I am also guilty of that, which is why I'm like, I'm stinging myself.
No, I'm me too. That's why. Listen, what they say, hit dog collar. So,
Yeah. And so it's like
that's
I don't want
real.
anybody to feel like I'm just throwing out judgment. I'm talking about me too.
Mm-mm. Yep.
And that is not to say also sometimes that is a good enough reason. Just to be honest. Just because like
Yeah.
if it's like you've had weeks where it's been thing after thing after thing, all your planning periods have been taken for one thing or another,
Yep.
and you gotta get some grading done.
Yep.
Sometimes it is a good enough reason to put them kids on the
Yeah.
computer.
Yeah. And
But
yeah.
it shouldn't be like that all the time.
No, it's days like that, and then you use ask three before me. So ask
Uh-huh.
three friends before you come to me because
Yep.
you see me over here feverishly. You know, like
I will
get what
tell
I got to
kids
do.
sometimes, I was like, I'm here, but I am the sub. So don't ask me nothing you wouldn't know.
I love that. Okay, I'm gonna have to use that. I'm here, but I'm just I love that. Okay, yeah, yeah. Cause right,
Like, yeah,
right.
I'm not here today. This is a
Yeah.
substitute.
Right. But then thank goodness sometimes you have those students that be like, man, and she told you. This let me just show you. When you wasn't listening, was you? So
Yeah.
sometimes you had them students that come to your rescue.
And that's the other thing too about like the things we were talking about earlier in like in our conversation about really build pouring into students with like confidence, like that
Yeah.
classroom management at the beginning of the school year.
Yeah.
You get away with it so much more if
Yeah.
you like really got your classroom like
Mm-hmm.
on lock, because a lot because you know by like I've come from schools where we've had the same kids all year. I'm going to a school
Yeah.
where we'll have new ones each semester, but like by
Okay.
December a lot of times I don't even necessarily have to declare it a sub day because my kids are so good at keeping each other together, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because I love that because I could just as I said I think of kids I've had this past school year, and I could just see them looking at them like, man, what's wrong with you? You know, I like, are you dumb? And they say something, I go, no, 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 no.
They're
You
like,
know,
yeah,
like
that's not
we
how we're
we
gonna
can't
say
say
it.
stuff like that, and we don't put nobody down, but you can help your friend out. Help your friend out now. So thinking about some trends in STEM education, what are some that you're excited about, not so excited about? You know, what are some things we should be incorporating in our classrooms as educators?
I've seen and heard from a lot of science teachers that they're going back to like more like paper-based things and more
I'm
inquiry-based
sorry.
things and like
Yes.
more like less so much
Yes.
technology. And I love that.
Yes. Yes.
I tell you all the time, I
Yes.
was like, I computers do not come out in my classroom on a regular, like I start every class period with there's always a slide on the board, and it's
Yep.
like here are your materials for the day. If it's not listed on there, don't pull that computer out your backpack.
Yep.
I don't care
Yep.
about it. I don't want to see it. And so I see more people leaning back towards that. And so I love that. Love to see it. I
Yeah.
also see a lot of more people are doing more writing in their science classes.
Yes.
Early in my career, I like almost everybody seems like would be like, "That's not my job. I don't teach English," and that mindset seems like it's slowly going away,
Yeah.
which I love because
Yes.
I'm all about writing. I make my
Yeah.
students write so much that they are sick of me all the time. They're like, "This is a science class," and I'm like, "Yeah, and we write."
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
but at the same token, I had a kid one year who was like, "I think I passed English because of your class." And I'm like, "Well, I'm pretty
Praise.
sure it was because of you, friend, but I'm glad I could help."
Yes.
And so I think that's important. The things that I'm not loving um, is just like the push for AI and coding inside of a class. I'm just not a big fan of kid facing AI, period. I'm not really a fan of AI regardless, but I try not to be judgy about how teachers use it for their
Right,
own
right.
workload because like I get it, but I definitely don't like to do kid facing AI things. Um but so I don't love that. And then like I had a thing where I had an admin who wanted like all of us to be integrating coding into our class. And I was like, friend,
In your biology class? I'm
in the
sorry, I didn't mean to cut
biology
you.
class. Yes, they wanted us to
Oh.
be in biology having kids doing coding. And I was like, friend, I don't have a background in coding. And you're not trying to pay me extra to go essentially learn a new field. And even if you were, I still wouldn't want to do it because we already like it's a state tested subject.
Yeah, I'm like, when do you have time for that?
Exactly. Like I don't love things like that. Like, and that is the thing about STEM that sometimes is tricky is people hear that and they think that means that people are that any science class is getting a lot invested into it, and that is usually in my experience not the case. It's usually they're investing in the tech and engineering classes
Yeah.
more so than like the actual science classes. And so just like this push for every single thing to be like coding or vocational,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't love. Just because like I love the idea of telling kids like you have options. I
Yes.
love for kids to know that like college is not necessarily the only thing, but I don't love the feeling that I get a lot where it seems like there are certain children that we are inordinately pushing towards vocational
Yeah.
careers. And like, oh well, this is a great option for you. And it's like, well, why do you think that college is
Right.
not also? Let it
Right.
be like I think they need to have all their options, but it needs to be their choice, not us pushing one thing on them so hard and heavy.
Agreed.
Um, and I feel that even with the push to like embed coding and that type of thing into the classroom, because when you talk about tech jobs, there are lower level jobs and there are higher
Right.
level jobs, and a lot of times the push for coding into the classroom it feels like it's aimed at funneling kids into those lower level jobs.
I mean, I just was like, because I would have been in trouble that day whenever that if that was a meeting and they're telling us, I'd have been like, what's the rationale for this? Like, I guess for me in my mind, I'm trying to wrap my brain around all the things you already teach in your course, and now and that you really don't always have time for because it's like you
Exactly.
go from thing to thing to thing a day and you're like you're trying to loop back and go back to things and make connections between things and content. I'm just going, wow, I've never heard that before.
It was,
So
and that might have been just at the school I was at,
no, I just
or at least in that district. But I remember like going to that meeting and being like, y'all have lost y'all's minds.
yeah, I'm like, who came up with this? Like,
Yeah, but it was like about like job skills and being 21st century ready or whatever. And I just was like, no.
I, and I think the thing that we're getting away from, and I know we want our kids to be ready, but they need a lot more soft skills.
Yes.
They need that. How do we communicate with one another? Those skills. How do we work together? How do we compromise? How do we, all those things. So I know all those things, and it goes back to those thinking skills. So to me, I'm just, I guess maybe I'll move on, but I'm just
No, no,
kind
no.
of
I'm
just
with
floored
you
by that.
because I'm absolutely the same way of like I think as a society, like there's a lot of people complain a lot about things being pushed on schools, but the thing I feel like we don't complain enough about getting pushed on schools is on the job training.
Yes.
Because what has happened to on the job training?
Oh, I
Like,
was just
why
talking to
are
some
kids
friends about
supposed
this
to?
yesterday. I'm
Yeah, like
sorry. Go
why are
ahead.
kids supposed to come out the classroom prepared to start the job on the job training used to be a big thing. And now it's like everybody expects kids to come already trained. And no, they don't, and they're not gonna know your proprietary software. They're not gonna know that you have some responsibility there. Our job as the K-12 is to teach them to think critically so that when you
Right.
are training them, they can pick it up quick. But
Right.
I shouldn't be training kids for that job.
No.
And then beyond that, the thing that always gets me about this idea of people are like, well, they need to learn AI in schools. When I was in school, AI didn't exist. Nobody could have prepared me for it. Chances are, by the time the kids that are in fifth grade get to graduating, it's going to be something new.
Yes.
So instead of me like chasing trends, teaching whatever is hot right now, it still makes much more sense for us to keep it at the basics, teach foundational skills, and then teach them how to apply it.
Yes. I was just having a conversation with some other teacher friends at lunch yesterday, and I was just telling them, as far as much as I love education, I think we're going down some, and again, this is just my personal opinion, maybe because I'm old school and I've been in this shit for a long time. But like things such as like just like even when we had agendas, there was something to that about them having agendas where you learn to write down your
Yes.
homework,
Oh my
where you
God.
learn like that time management, where you learn that accountability, and you had that communication. So there were so even like in where I am, where I work at, some of the middle schools don't have lockers. And I said there was something to that about
Mhm.
knowing how to open a locker. Because now kids just carry around book bags all day long. And I said, when I was in school, no, you had 3 minutes. And I said, we know how to go to that locker real quick. Do, 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 do. I need this book. I need this book. I said, there's something about taking away that
Yes.
responsibility is really not helping them to grow.
And then we want to complain that kids can't do anything. And it's like, well,
Yes,
that's not their fault. That's our fault.
that's our fault.
Because we took it like I tried to get the agenda planners back at my last job, and they were like, well, no, we can't do it for X, Y, and Z reason. And it's like,
Hmm.
okay, well, we can't complain about students not being able to manage time and not teach
Yeah.
them how to manage their time. We
Yes.
can't complain about, like, one of the things that gets on my last nerve is we like, these kids don't know how to write on paper correctly. Well, we've been giving them computers by the time they hit fourth grade. Why would they know what side the holes are supposed to be on? They don't use them.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
Like that's a us problem,
It's
not a
a us
them
thing.
problem.
Yes. And so, yeah, I mean, because, and I guess the reason why I said it too is because last night I had the opportunity to go to like a talk or like a reception. And Dr. Lonnie Johnson, the famous inventor of the super soaker, he was
Yeah.
there. And Jalen Brown, the basketball player, he was there. And they were just talking about innovation and things like that. And I was just sitting there and I was just thinking, yes, it is us adults. We are getting in the way of
Yeah.
their brilliance. And we
Yeah.
have to get out of the way. I know, and I said that too. I'm saying that as I'm looking at the mirror, myself in the mirror sometimes.
Yes.
I have to get out of the way. I see their brilliance. I know they're brilliant, but I let my adult fear and experiences get in the way. And I think that's something that as educators we do. We let that adult fear and anxiety and worry, as we've been there, we know what it's like, get in the way of really letting them,
Yeah.
excel.
Absolutely. Like that productive struggle thing, like I think that's bigger than just like classroom content too, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes a kid finishes early, they just need to be bored. They just need to have to sit there and twiddle their
Dang.
thumbs and figure out how to entertain themselves. Like that is
Yes.
also that's how like you get these
Yes.
like imagination. Like I used to write so much when I was in school because I would
Yes.
get done with stuff early, and then I would need to not be a nuisance, and so I would write. But also what comes with it too, which I think is a thing with like educators, parents, whatever. Because like now I always had a lot of opinions, but I don't have kids. But now that I live with a 5 and 6 year old,
Yeah.
it's so many things that I thought and I still think, but now I have to live it, and it's much harder to live it because it's like it is so much easier for me to give that girl a tablet and be
Right.
like, get out of my face. If I want her to not be on the tablet, then
Yes.
I probably also have to not be on my phone.
Yeah.
I have to also be like, okay, she's gonna come up here and ask me 50, 11 questions
Yeah.
because like, and some of it is like you have to make room to be annoyed as an adult. You
Yeah.
have to let yourself be aggravated,
Yes.
and that's how kids are learn. The process of learning is
Yeah.
a annoying process,
Yes.
and when we try to skip that, then you get what we have now, or it's like these kids are doing X, Y, and Z to dot. That's kind of just how learning works, my friend.
Right, right, right. And it's like I tell them all the time. So I was like, you think like all these great scientists and inventors, you think they got it right on the first time? You
Yeah.
think they got it right on the first try? It took them sitting back, thinking about it, like you said, going out doing a thing. But I think you're right because I say this all the time. Our kids need to be bored because a lot of them come to school thinking, first of all, there's some of them are really already overstimulated because
Mhm.
they've already been on their phone or been on the computer before they come. And they think, I think you think I'm supposed to entertain you all day? I tell them I can sing, but not for, like that's not what I'm paid to do. And I think they need that downtime. They need
Yeah.
that because I've seen that too. Because the one thing that I hate, and I know I'm like, I could talk to you all day, but I'm like, I need to ask one more question. But I think because I've seen this with in the invention of, of technology in the classroom, I remember the days when I could give my kids something and I could say, draw this or
Yes.
do this. But then now it's, can I look something up?
That is one of my biggest fears with AI is
Yeah.
that I really believe it's robbing children of creativity.
Yeah.
And I think tech does too. It robs kids of creativity. It robs them of trusting their own creativity and trusting their
Yes.
own imagination
Yeah.
because they are so and being nervous about being wrong is a very human trait. Like
Yes.
the 5-year-old I live with, it's such a weird way to refer to my niece. She she'll get anxious about being wrong about things. And
Yeah.
and she hasn't even been in school for real yet, right? So
Yeah.
it's a very human trait. But when we immediately give them tools that help them fix it, then they never learn how to work outside of it, right? Like even technology where like one of the things that I was talking to my sister about this the other day, she used to be a teacher, about how even pre-AI, when we had things like, and this is no shade, no slander to Khan Academy or anything like this, but
Yeah.
or like Khan Academy quizzes, all those things where if you get the answer wrong, it gives you the answer.
Yeah.
What it misses is the step where a kid actually has to go back and wrangle, right?
Okay. Right. Right.
Like in class, when I give a student something and they get something wrong and I go, oh, that's not quite right, look at it again. They have to
Yes.
sit
Yes.
there and engage with it, right?
Yeah.
And so that is actually where they're forming like the neural networks or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And the thinking is actually happening and they're actually deeply encoding the information versus
Right.
if I give it to you on a computer, then which is another I saw. If you can tell, whatever what I'm about to say deeply aggravates me. I'm trying to remember where I saw it, but I saw or was talking to somebody about they had a. I was talking to my friend. She has a co-teacher, and the co-teacher wants to just put the students who need extra support on quizzes,
Oh no.
and it's like, well, they're not learning. You're not.
No,
That's not support, my love. And it's
that's
like
not.
they're not. You're just giving them information, and that is one of the biggest things I think that's happening with technology and why and it's like we're robbing students of imagination, we're robbing them of trust in themselves and of their creativity,
Right.
and we're just presenting information and we're taking away the part where they actually do the learning.
Yeah. No, oh gosh, I hate that.
I was so upset when we had the
I don't.
conversation. I've had her explain it to me like 4 times because I was like, I can't be understanding you correctly because that is educational malpractice.
Right, because I'm thinking, ooh, if that was my child
I would be
in
ready to
that
fight.
room. Right, exactly. I'm appalled by that.
Yeah.
And no tea, no shade to special ed teacher because I know they have a lot of work. They're doing IEPs. They're
Yes, I
conducting meetings.
those
I
hardest
get
working people in
that.
the building.
No, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I get that. Very much, but at the same time, though, that's our most precious population of students who need
Yeah,
a little bit extra support, need us a little bit more. They deserve that from us.
yeah, and
And
and I mean, and the thing is too, like, and it's not just happening with them. Like, I have a friend. She works at a different school. She teaches English, and she was like, all of her students are like the math teacher just as Science Khan Academy. Like, it is, and I think it comes from you get a lot of teachers who do not have a background in education,
mm,
and they feel like that is. I honestly think that a lot of the things we see like on teacher talk and all that type of stuff, people
yeah,
complaining about teaching and complaining about students, I think a lot of that comes from it's gonna sound a little snarky, but a lot of teachers don't know how to teach anymore. Like, and this is not
mm,
everybody. And a lot of the ones who come in not knowing how to teach work their tails off because I was an alternate route teacher. I
yeah,
was that teacher
yeah,
at one point, but I worked but I didn't go into like the either they do it or they're not trying. I worked my tail off for it, and so there are a lot of teachers who come in with that who become excellent, amazing teachers,
yes.
and there are some who do the bare minimum and then complain about kids.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I understand. I have an MAT myself, so I completely understand. But I guess for me, at the end of the day, um, I look at it as an investment in our future,
Yeah.
an investment in our community. Um, and so I know that if I don't do my part, I'm only robbing my own
Yes.
future. I'm only
Exactly.
it's only going to be detrimental, because sometimes we joke and we'll go, oh, if I'm on the operating table, I don't want to look up and go, oh my God, it's you. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Those type of
Yeah.
things. But the reality is that there is a lot of great teaching. There are a lot of great teachers, but there's also some teachers who need a little bit of support, and that's okay. That's just in
Yes.
every field. But I think with kids it's different though, because this is again investing in our future. And so we have got to change some things. And so I feel like I could talk to you all day, but I'm going to ask you one last question because I know myself, and I usually tell people before we get on the podcast that I talk all day and I can talk all day.
Oh,
So I have to constrain myself, especially when it comes to talking about education
yeah.
and things that
I'm
I'm
the
very
same
passionate
way.
about. Because I want I especially you go to, like, when I've gone to Ghana and I've worked in schools and I've worked with those students, and you see those students, you go, oh my God, if only I could bring all of the things,
Yeah.
that are stuffed away in somebody's closet somewhere over to you. What we could, what I just want to give you. And then sometimes, and I would come home and I would go, what you mean you don't even want to pick up a pencil? I had kids over
Yeah.
there, they were sharing three pen, that a whole class of 70 kids were sharing three pencils, like, so I'm very passionate about this, but I know that we've got to do better and do right by our kids. And so again, that's why I wanted to have you on here, because you are amazing and you're doing amazing things. And so my very last question, and I hate that I say this, but if for every educator that's listening today, and some people they may be a little bit offended, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. We all have different experiences, and in the classroom and things like this. It's okay. But if you could leave your message today for every educator listening, from our conversation, what message would you leave for them that you hope that they remember?
I think something that you just said is really like the crux of it for me is that this is all about community, right? Like when
Hmm.
we look at the world and we look at the state of the US and the state of things, so much of it is comes down to everybody like being individualistic, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I've recently read Original Sins, The Miseducation of Black and Native Children and the Construction of American Racism by Eve Ewing.
Yeah, I've heard of that
Um,
book. That's on my to
it's,
do. That's on my to do
it's
my
so
book to
good.
list. Yeah.
It's a hard read, not
Mm,
like not that it's written in a confused, like it's very digestible
yeah.
writing, but it is a hard read. And something that kept coming up is just like this the way that community, like we've been separated and siloed from each other.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of improving education, improving our own experience in education has to do with us being in community with each other, being willing to like feel that prick and not get offended, or
Right.
like taking that offense and then going, okay, am I offended because it's wrong, or I'm offended because it's something I needed to hear?
Right.
And collaborate with other people. Excuse me. And I think part of that is like, if you're in a building where you don't feel like you can get support, find that support from somewhere outside the building. And I'm not saying that to say come pay me for anything, because you ain't got to do that. Find your people.
Pay her for
um,
stuff, y'all. Pay her. Go ahead and pay her.
I mean, I would appreciate it, but I'm not saying that like as a type of thing. I'm saying like find
Right.
your community. They may
Right.
not be in your field. They may not be in your building. They may
Right.
not be in your state. But
Right.
find people who you can talk to and who you communicate to that help you grow as an educator. And also who you can vent to, because it's a hard job. And something like push back out, something like it's like you want to be, you're being toxic positive. No, I'm not. I am one of the biggest complainers in the world. I complain all the time. I just also go and actively work to make it better.
Yes.
And I think that is one of the most important parts is like find that community, and then I kind of going back to something I said earlier today is figure out what it is that you can do,
Yeah.
and take care of yourself along the way.
Yes. You've spoken to so many things, and that's one of the reasons why, for me, what we do at Teach Them Global, we're going to be changing up some things. We have some things coming on the horizon. For me, it's important that we build this community and we build this network. And I want people, not just here in the States, but for people across the globe. If you're a STEM educator, I don't care if you're in the Caribbean or if you're in Africa or wherever you are, to be able to say, hey, can I lean into you?
Mhm.
Can you teach me how you did that? Like, or can you share with me? Um, because again, I don't care how long you've been in this game, and I've been in it for a little while, there's still something to learn. There's
Yeah.
still some way for me to grow. Because as educators, I think one of the fallacies that we think is that we don't have to continue to grow.
Yes.
We had to continue to always
Yes. Always.
grow.
Always.
And that's something I want. I like the model for my students also. Just that.
Mm-hmm.
So you've spoken to so much of that. I'm just like
No, this is a great conversation.
I'm like, okay, I'm gonna call you later. But anyways, no, I just want to say thank you again, Dr. J, for sharing your expertise, your experience. How can our listeners connect with you?
Yeah. So I am on, I feel like all the social media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube at Tis Dr. J, TISDRJ. And my website is sci-odyssey.com, SCI-ODYSSEY.com. Until I slow that down because I always am like, am I about to misspell Odyssey?
I get it. I
um,
get it.
yeah,
Well,
this is so much fun.
no, so again, I am just like my heart is so full right now. I hate to say this, but that is a wrap for this episode. I feel like there should be a part two, but this is a wrap for this episode for the Perspectives in STEM podcast. Again, a huge thank you to you, Dr.
Thank
J,
you
for
for having me.
sharing with us today. So if this conversation sparked something in you, please do me a favor. Please subscribe, share it with a teacher, a student, a STEM professional who needs to hear this message, definitely this one today. I'm going to go back and listen to it again myself several times, and leave us a comment. And be sure to subscribe for future podcast episodes that are moving and inspirational, just like this one. And remember, every child deserves the chance to explore STEM. It doesn't have to be magnificent. It doesn't have to be grand. They need that opportunity. So if you'd like to be a part of that mission, please visit our website at teachstemglobal.org to learn more, to donate, to volunteer. In the meantime, I'm Dr. Kimberly West. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep building a brighter future. STEM for all, everywhere.